Hi everybody, Conrad Zimmerman here, ready to answer some more of the questions off of my Ask FM page. If you want to ask a question, just go to the address right there, ask.fm/Conrad Zimmerman. There's a little box and you enter it in and it comes to me and maybe I answer it. It's pretty straightforward. So let's get started. First question today, does gaming help or hinder your married life? I would say it's a real help. I mean, it's something that we both enjoy doing. We both like playing board games, card games, video games, all of that stuff. And so that's been a shared interest for our entire relationship. It can certainly be an inconvenience for her when I'm in the middle of a game and she wants me to do something else, or, you know, it can be one of those things, especially working in this industry and working in criticism. You know, she sees me playing games all the time and sometimes has to be reminded that it is work. I mean, she knows that, so it's not like a big deal, but occasionally it can be a sticking point. But it's something that we come together on. It's something that we appreciate each other's company and appreciate the medium together. And so she's into it, not to the degree that I am, but she likes it. And so it's something that brings us together. So I'd say it's a help. Next question. This is a lengthy one. I feel like people's reverence for emergent gameplay as the future of storytelling is somewhat dubious. What are your thoughts? Does a pre-structured narrative have an upper limit of emotional response that'll eventually be surpassed by non-linear game experiences? Okay. I think that it's less about the emotional response that those games elicit so much as their structure and that structure's ability to function within the medium. The thing about linear narrative and games is that in a game we try to give agency to the player. We try to make them feel like they are a part of that story. The problem is that everybody who comes at that brings their own perspective, brings their own ideas, and brings their own sort of expectations. And what that means is that you can often have an experience where you think of something completely differently than the way it was intended. And the character that you're portraying is incapable of carrying out your thought, which causes a bit of narrative dissonance. Now, that's not to say that every game's like that or that you can't have great linear stories. You absolutely can. But I think that the greatest potential lies in emergent gameplay narratives, because and this is something that any tabletop game dungeon master, whatever you want to call them, would tell you. The person who runs a tabletop game, for all intents and purposes, they'll all tell you that trying to force a narrative on a group of people is not a good idea. Trying to have a strictly designed, rigid, linear plot doesn't work, because someone invariably will come up with something that you didn't expect, that you didn't anticipate. And then you have to either work around that to pull it back into your rigid linear plot structure in a way that makes sense, or you have to veer off and go in a new direction entirely. Now, linear plot writing in games doesn't allow for that, but we're putting players in a position where they should have the sense that they are engaged in such a way that they have a measure of control over the story. And so that's where that intersection meets. And emergent gameplay, you know, just putting someone in a world and having the story develop out of that sort of a guided narrative process, I think is a much more realistic expectation for creating great stories and the stories that people remember. But again, that's not to say linear plots can't be enjoyable or can't work, but they won't necessarily work for all people in all circumstances in the way that an emergent gameplay narrative would. Everybody who participates in that's going to have their own story. They're going to create their own little mythos regarding what they did. And that's a personal thing that I think is going to be more satisfying to people in the end. All right, so that's about enough on that, I think. Next question. What's the last song you played on repeat multiple times because it's so good? I mean, I do this with a lot of songs. I think the last, like, chronologically, the last song I did that with was The Darkest of the Hillside Thickets have a song called What Man Was Not Meant to Know. And it's on the album Shadow Out of Tim, which is a sort of modern retelling of H.P. Lovecraft's Shadow Out of Time. Cool album. And yeah, I listen to that on repeat. I also like to listen to Prince's Little Red Corvette on repeat a lot. I do that pretty frequently. And I will put Lady Gaga songs on loop for some reason. They're just so well crafted in terms of pop songs. Next up, could you see Nintendo ever making a franchise that would surpass the loyalty afforded to Mario and Zelda? Yes, I think it's possible for them to do that. They're creative, smart company that has very original, interesting ideas that people get attached to. I don't think they will. I don't think they are in a position where they feel they have to. Just keeping Mario and Zelda fans satisfied seems to put enough on their plate. And now they have all sorts of other great franchises that they could exploit further and take more advantage of their respective fandoms. Metroid doesn't probably get enough of the love it deserves. Donkey Kong, they're doing a lot better job of bringing back. But I mean, they have so many great franchises to draw on already. I don't think they feel a need to push hard to create something new that would resonate on that level. I certainly think it's possible that they could do it. But there's certainly no reason to think that that's not, like, that Mario and Zelda are just unreachable paragons of adoration. But there's no reason for them to do it, and so I don't think they will. At least not for a very long time. Not until Mario and Zelda are passé somehow. Next question. This is, do you like cows? Yes. The products that are derived from their bodies are delicious and or practical. They're kind of cute in a big lumbering sort of way. My family actually, my uncle runs a farm, and we have cows on that farm. And I just saw them back in October, and yeah, they're cows. Cows are neat. They're useful creatures. Next up, what do you think? Oh, this is our last question. Really? Wow, we flew through that a little quick. Some of those were short answers. My last question, anyway. What do you think of SaltyBet? Now, just for people who may not be aware of what SaltyBet is a sort of community betting game that's sort of operating on the internet. You can go to saltybet.com and check it out. And what it is, it's people making wagers of a, fictional currency, a game-based currency that they're making bets on fighting game characters fighting each other, or characters from all sorts of pop culture, using a fighting game engine that was developed for PC, where people can custom create characters. And so they have an artificial intelligence, in the game that operates each of the characters. And it's much more complicated than I totally understand. I certainly don't get the building of character process. Apparently characters have different tier levels and so forth. And so I'm not totally informed on how all of that works, but basically what it is, you go to this site and you watch two characters from various media or the internet culture or video games pitted head to head, and people wager on who will be the victor. And then there's a chat room running along the side that has people in there watching and enjoying it together. And it's an interesting thing. It's not something I particularly want to participate in all that much, although I do think it sort of taps in really well with how people will say, oh, well, who would win in a fight between these two guys? And that's what Mugen, that PC fighting game engine is good for. So it's entertaining to watch. The combinations are often strange. I watched a SaltyBet match today that involved the Doge meme. I think it's Doge. Is that how you pronounce it? Look at that Doge. I don't know. The little derpy dog meme that's floating around right now. And that was kind of entertaining, and then the crowd loved it, of course. So it's kind of funny to watch the people's reaction to the fights. It's interesting to see the combinations. It's not something I have a whole lot of interest in spending time on, but sometimes I'll just put it up on the screen and sort of watch it passively. I don't participate in betting or anything like that, but it certainly seems to have tapped into something, and people enjoy watching it. It's developed its own culture and community, and good for them. It's a clever idea, and they seem to have executed on it pretty well. So that's it for our questions this week. If you have a question that you want to ask me, again, just go hit up the ask.fm/Conrad Zimmerman that you see on the screen there. And don't forget, you can also follow me on Twitter. My username is Conrad Zimmerman, also right there on your screen. And don't forget to follow this channel, subscribe, and we'll be doing more gaming content. We're just about to wrap up the series of playing Legend of Dungeon with my wife here pretty soon, and we'll be doing something else together again real soon. We'll have more Spelunky, and I've got a whole bunch of games I want to do one-shots of this week, so hopefully we'll get some of those up. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.